I'll try.
Welcome to the Mahabhoomi Podcast, Megha Ben.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Been eagerly waiting to have you here for the
It's
longest
actually,
time.
it's real fun. I should go to talk to you like this as well. So
Yes,
let's
yes.
get to it.
Yeah, let's get to the meat of things. So, I think it was almost an year back that you described this concept to me that in the world there are two kind of people, the givers and the takers, and nothing in between. These were your exact words. We were at the Hanuman temple. We were walking back from our Hanuman temple, and I think that's where you told me these lines. Since then, I've thought about these lines at least 100 times. At least 100 times. Because whenever I try to judge a person with respect to their capability of delivering anything for that matter, not just in terms of ideology or anything, business, relationship, whatever. This this has this has sort of become a filter, a litmus test for me. And I think these are very profound words. And I invited you particularly today to have a discussion around this concept.
Actually, these aren't my words. These are my father's words. I mean, my father became an ancestor quite a long time ago, but he would say these to us. There are givers and takers and nothing in between. You can try to be a giver or a taker. If you aren't one, if you're aware that that's your nature, that's your personality. But in essence, you remain one or the other, depending on what you've experienced as you grow up or your life experiences, what's happened to you. And I have always run my life like that. I mean, I try very hard to give people many, many chances, but eventually it always boils down to givers and takers. And we're not just talking money, we're talking time, we're talking compassion, we're talking chances, we're talking basic things like, picking your friend up from the airport, for example, rather than letting them have a taxi, or making sure that if somebody's paid for the first, second, third meal, you pay for the fourth. That sort of awareness. And some people just get so bogged in by one or the other that they forget about the balance that is very, very necessary. So, interestingly that you say that, it's exactly how I run my life. And I even tell my children the same thing: pay once, pay twice, pay thrice. And if they don't pay the fourth time, that's money very well spent, because you know now what to expect from people. So if that makes any sense. So that's where that saying comes from my father. Just it was a very basic way of judging people. And what's elemental here, and also very crucial to remember, it's not about your economic status or your economic background.
Oh, not
It's
at
your
all.
inner nature.
Yeah.
It's your inner nature of how easily you'll think of doing something for somebody else. And I have met people who actually said to me, "Gosh, I'm such a taker. I never thought of, you know, paying without saying, oh, who's going to pay?" Or just making a bit of a fuss. I always make a fuss hoping that the person will pay. Or, I just never think about arranging a pickup from the airport or dropping one. It just doesn't occur to me. And then I realize, but I like it done too. I like it done for me. So there are people who have the awareness and they do try. Um, so I suppose that's important to note as well.
But you realize that this is not about money, right? As you said, people who try to contribute, add value. They're just like that. You can put them in any situation. They even if they're not capable of doing, you know, even if these guys don't have money, they're they deal with the situation very differently. At least they don't steal. They're not cheap. Almost never.
No, they don't tend to steal. They don't commit these massive frauds. They do that. They do their thing. Just they do it without any expectation.
Yeah.
That's because that's their nature. They're lovers. You could even hate on them, and they'll They may not engage with you, but they'll still, deal with you with compassion, with love, and just carry on giving. Sometimes I wonder, and I think it's folly, but then I really think about it, and that is really, I think about my father, who was extremely religious man and very Sanatani in his contributions. And I remember him saying it is a Sanatan trait. You can identify a true Sanatani by how they give without expectation. They just give because that is what they are supposed to do, contribute to society, to Dharma, to the collective, so to speak. And the collective, of course, being Dharma for people of my father's generation. So, yes, you're very right. It's nothing to do with money, to do with just your inner nature and giving without expectation. It's hard. I mean, it's very, very hard. I've done that sometimes, and I find nothing is coming back. Then I think, what am I being stupid, being giving to somebody who doesn't want to even think about me or even message me a happy birthday message? What am I doing? And then you realize, well, actually, that's their nature. You just have to be forgiving, or perhaps understanding or non-judgmental of what happened to them, or why they came to that life experiences and previous karmas. And you have to realize that your karma is to carry on just being a giver and just do it, which means you have to then deal with the things. I suppose the crucial question here then arises is, are you taking away from yourself to give to others? Or does giving more give you more as well? Are you depleting yourself? I think these are important questions to think about, because there is a psychological element here, especially with modern society. We're not living in a village where, you could just give and somebody gave you what you were depleted. There was like a circular circuit of passing the giving on. So even if the person you were giving to doesn't give back, somebody else was giving to you. So it didn't matter if it was pure giving and taking contribution or arrangement. It was, it passed on. But the way we live society today, that's a very difficult thing. So you have to transgress that and think, I'm going to do what is my nature, what dharma demands of me, and carry on. But it's tough. I have to say it is tough.
It
You
is. It is.
sometimes you don't feel it.
I mean, giving also requires capability, right? Sometimes you're just not capable to contribute. I mean, that's a separate discussion, but you need to have some kind of earth, some kind of value.
I think the reason you're not capable of giving and giving and giving is because you're not being given to. The crucial thing is, if we all gave, which is our nature, to the next person, somebody would pass on. So I know when I feel depleted, either I haven't been open to giving, or I've just been in a place where people haven't been giving to me. It's just been, I'm in business, and sometimes such a cutthroat world that I feel depleted by fighting all the time, or by raised voices or things like that deplete me. But had I got somebody, say for example, if I was around my mother, who's a great giver, or or my partners or my children, then it might help. But I think once upon a time we had this idea of the chain of giving, which somehow has gone with the erosion of dharma. So I still hold givers and takers and nothing in between. But I mean, that is a statement that needs to be dismantled to
Yeah.
understand the nuances of it. And so I'm glad you're doing it, because nobody's actually ever said to me, "My God, I really thought about that." And I mean, if my children's friends say that, we talked about the statement, but not as much as you have. And yes, it's a very simple statement, but it does break down, something very simple as what is dharma, sustainable giving, that you
So,
give from yourself sustainably.
why um I'm trying to build something, right? Whether it is a business, this one little thing, or even trying to build a community which serves a rather long-term ideological purpose in the long run, right? And why I thought so much about this concept was because these lines kept coming back at me every time I decided whether I should make an alliance with this person or that person or not. Where I should invest my energy, because um, whatever we are trying to do is much above our pay grade. At least for me, that's true. And so in every person I invest, I need to maximize my returns in terms of in terms of the capability that I bring in, the kind of people that I bring in, so on and so forth. So that's why it became almost a like a litmus mechanism. Because see, with at some point of time, I decided that w- the kind of people I want to choose, even if they fail, I should not be left with a bitter taste in my mouth, right? And that permeated in my business, that permeated in the side things that I'm doing. I don't know if
Uh,
it is for Sanatan.
no, no.
And then, and this thought really came back to me today, because me and a friend of mine, we what we were discussing was that what kind of future leadership should should be there for Sanatan, whether it be political or ideological or whatever, right? And again, it came back to me that givers and takers. If a person is somebody who wants to contribute, then they are the right person, absolutely. And no matter how capable a person is, but if they're a taker, their capability will lead to some kind of robbery in the future.
Yes.
Give it or
Um,
take it.
I think what you said about the practical level, that's really important actually, because you're right. No matter how capable a person is, if they're takers, eventually their growth will stop. It will stop. They
They'll
might be
turn
fantastic.
robbers. They'll turn
It
robbers.
will stop. So, from a practical point of view, I have to say it's also my litmus mechanism. I also ensure I don't test people, but they show themselves, quickly enough. Now, sometimes people will show me they're takers, but I still keep giving chances because I'm one of those people who's a believer and a lover, and thinking people will show their best and things will shine. Now, even though I know that doesn't happen, I know that doesn't happen. So I think just being a giver does not mean allowing people to take the piss continuously. So you're so right. I do that on a practical level, and I teach my children that. It's like, for example, the dating world. I tell my
This is a pretty bang on practical gyan. This is not verbose stuff. This is a very simple thing, and the more you contemplate about it, the larger it grows in your head.
But you're right. It's such a simple thing. So I'll give you an example. I tell my son, in his when he's dating, um, when you go out for a date, or same for my daughter, pay the first time, pay the second time, pay the third time. If the fourth time they don't at least offer to pay or actually make real effort to pay, then get them out of your life, no matter how amazing they might seem, because they're takers and that's it. You judge them. Like I said, money well spent. The same for my daughter. Now, going back to the business world, I do the same as well. I give a chance twice, and then I think, nah, I'm not going to put energy here. Or like mentoring, like you do, mentoring young people. I don't expect young people to give me anything back, but in terms of the time, their politeness, even, and how they behave with you, are the givers takers, a huge difference. Do they respect
O-
your time, for example, as well?
Off lately, politeness and etiquettes has become a very dear commodity.
And it's also become a farcical one because it is to gain something. After you've gained what you wish, you discard people like commodities, um, and which is a real shame. But again, this is what takers do. But it's a mistake, you see. Here's the reason: because life is long. You don't know what transpires as we go along,
Yeah.
and you should be a giver or try to be a giver, because in the end, there's only one thing that matters in the end: people.
Hmm.
Everything falls apart. People need people. Nothing else matters. So being a giver is actually to cultivate giving is actually a survival tactic as well.
Hmm.
But like you said, but it's not, it's not inert. So you can try. Now, having said that, it's not doom and gloom. I have met people who are givers, and they have said, "I've learned to be a giver from how I was raised, my parenting, and I make conscious effort every single moment to be a giver." So it's not all doom and gloom. You can do it as well. But the key element here being self-awareness, which also, like etiquette and manners, is in very short supply, very short cook at the moment.
Yeah, sincere ones, definitely. That stream is even thinner. You
But I would
mentioned
love to
about
hear actually from you some examples actually of how you use this. So, like I said, I've used it in business. Even when I, have a make a business deal, when we go out, is their company paying? Is my paying? How often is it going? It shows a larger culture of fairness as well.
Mm.
And the thing is, even if even if that's not who you are, you should know it also makes good sense otherwise in terms of perception. But I wonder how you've applied this, because I apply it daily.
Oh,
Anything and
same
everything.
as yourself. So, whenever I go out for a business meeting, right? If I have to make a deal with somebody, most of the time I concentrate on, long-term business contracts. And when I just take somebody out for a coffee, and I try to have the longest, odd conversation with the person, and just keep assessing how is this person going, what are the questions they're asking. That's in business. Obviously, you know how they end up paying the bill, that's a small thing, but what it really boils down to is say the practical bit is what are they trying to include or exclude from the contractual clauses, right? How is the negotiation is being stitched? How much are they willing to let go, and how much control they want, and whether it's long term, short term, what are they what are they reaping out of it? It's not an easy assessment, but eventually after you've had a lot of internalized a lot of data, and then something comes out, and that's the decision. On the other hand, when it comes to personal relationship, friends and all, it takes about an year and a half at least for me to finalize on any person, and gives that time frame is very large. And say in that time frame I can take a call, because what I've understood it now, because anyone can hide their personality, but maximum 100 days, maximum. Eventually they'll reveal.
I think the reason you give them a year and a half is because you're extremely generous and you will give. That's why. Because other people don't. If they think they can see they can't take from you, they disappear very, very quickly. That also shows generosity. Now, in business, when you talk about business, of course, it's not, I don't mean just the paying the bill in that sort of situation. And in business, you can be hard and tough because that's business and it's about money. But then it's about being very clear about it.
Mm.
And that's for me that matters here, rather than trying to have a facade about you being really amazing, how you've been fair. Just say, this is what I want, this is what I expect, this is my business deal. So again, for me, that's about how truthful and transparent you are.
Mm.
Um,
So
and that for me, that's also important. This even applies to dodgy dealing, because that's happened all the time in many businesses as well. It's how
anybody who has done business dodgy deals, like startup do- dodgy deals are there. You have to take chances.
so you have to, but again, they're how transparent and open you are.
Mm.
So if you are you sharing what your spoils are? Are you keeping them for yourself? Things like
Mm.
that.
Yeah,
It, it,
so another thing is that how much is how much are the things getting shared between the team of the other person?
Precisely,
Yeah.
because when that get and the thing, it also shows how strong their team is. Because when you share, you get a very loyal team, and a loyal team is not by fear, which often happens. You don't get a team by fear, by your generosity, and
Mm.
I don't mean money, but just generosity in how you treat them there with your time. How you are, and you want to do business with a culture that's like that.
Mm.
So, but very transparently, very openly. So some of my business dealings are tough, and I am at the advantage, and I do get a better deal out of it. But I'm very transparent about it. This is what I want from this business deal. This is what I'm willing to give you.
Mm.
There's no like, oh, but look, I'm doing you a favor. None of that. Straightforward. That's or if
And
you're facilitating movements. I've come across this in partners a lot. Facilitating movements of money. I take 10 but give 5. No, none of that. None of that. It's got to be very, very transparent, very
mm.
clear. Um, so sharing how you share in your profits, in your gains, in everything, in your fame, even, it really, really matters. So Yes, it is. There's so much, you can read so much into this little statement.
Yeah.
Though in the end, it's very simple. You know who givers are, you know who takers are. People will come into your life to see how much they can take from you, be it financially or emotionally or sexually or business or economically or whatever. But
Even
you very quickly find out. And like you said, people like you and me give chances for a very, very long time. And then afterwards, the thing is to move on very calmly and say, "Hey, get on. I hope you wish you well, and move on." And that's also because you give people the benefit of the doubt and you move on.
mm, yeah, yeah. I mean, once you enter an office, you only have to spend like 10-20 minutes there. Look at the, just feel the vibration of the staff, the helper and all. You start getting a sense because it's more about how you treat people, right? How you share. In fact, for that matter, the best CEOs are those who share a share a part of their fame with their team. The best ones are those who attribute everything to their team.
Exactly. Where you have your staff, because of course in India it's very hierarchical, but it's very hierarchical. But you have a staff who's sidestepping you as opposed to saying hello to you,
Mm,
who bowing in deference as we're talking to you. I mean, of course they know that you're the boss and everything. And all these, you can tell the culture within just a few minutes, whether you want to be there,
yeah.
stand there. You're so right. But all this boils down to that very simple concept, very simple concept.
Mm,
I no longer even think about this at all. It's become instinctive because I remember from a very early age when I was about, I think, 13, 14, my dad saying this to me because, at that point we weren't that well off. And I remember going out to this lovely restaurant in Nairobi and not quite being afford to pay the bill. And then we have to call my father about it. And, it was a huge little, teenage drama. But that's when he gave me that lesson and that a bit of small lecture about givers and takers, and collective. He did bind that with collectivity as well, a collective consciousness. We're a collective as a people. Um, and since then, I've been doing this, and it's become instinctive now. I don't really think about it anymore. But I do give people chances, so many chances. I carry on doing it until I don't. Until I don't.
So the reason I give people a lot of time, at least in the personal and other spaces, like business, you have to act fast, right? That's a different territory. But eventually, with people, I take a while because how I understand things is that everybody doesn't know this by heart, and many a times people are just unable to give, right? Their own situation, their own mess that they're dealing with. I don't expect people to be generous when they. I mean, most givers are very generous, especially when they're on hot soil. But I still think that for me it's an idea that give these people some time, show them something, and let's see if they're able to turn in that time frame. But eventually, if they don't, then you have to discard.
Exactly.
Otherwise, it can
Exactly.
really become toxic. So, for people who like to contribute, the biggest challenge, and I'll take it to give it. I'll take it into another territory, which is relationships, especially intimate relationships, and this is where it is most applicable. That you need to know when to discard people. You need to know when you want bailout, basically, and that's the hardest thing. Because people are givers are also very very emotionally invested in whoever they give to.
Well, givers tend to be hyper empathetic,
Yeah.
and that becomes
Oh
an
yeah, that's
issue.
true. That's true.
That becomes an issue. So, I mean, what you've said, some giving people chances and checking them out, because it does boil down to a level of immaturity. I know like 40-year-old grown men and women who throw tantrums like toddlers because they lack the inner maturity to understand themselves, to self-reflect, to look within. So you think, well, let's love people into being an emotional giver, but you can't do that until they're self-reflective. But sometimes people do grow with love, other times they don't, and you're right, you just have to discard. And then going to your statement about um, intimate relationship, that's a big one there. It's very hard for women, especially women in Bharat, because of how we're raised. We're raised to take and take and take. We have an expectation of, loving, hyper empathetic. Um, we have expectations that are so pliant upon us that we want to live by those. And it's very hard for us when we don't do that because we feel like failures. We feel like, oh my God, we failed in our task of being a giver, because that's what we're told. And it's okay to give within families. That's how it is. It's how it's supposed to be. But not at the expense of standing by your partner or your lover or your husband or forever and ever, eating up all your dreams to feed their whatever it is they need to achieve. And, we have all of these men's rights movements and all of that, I understand. But the truth remains that in Bharat, women still are at the disadvantage. Um, yeah, so for me, that's a crucial point. It's very hard for women. Men, we of course also have hyper empathetic men. I'm not saying we don't, but there's an extra level of societal expectation upon women. And
Mm.
women don't. Women stay in toxic relationships forever. I've seen that. I've seen again and again and again. Women talk to me about, my husband's never home till 3 or 4 at night. He's always out. I don't know what he's doing. Whatever. But these women just carry on giving and giving and giving and giving because that's all they know how to do. That's all the choices they know how to make. We're trained that way. So you have to step out of this sort of perspective here. This is not going to be a personal giving, like a society thing. So you're right, intimate relationships really, really matter because you've got to protect yourself. You can't give at the expense of the loss of your entire identity, a confused brain. So, yeah, you're so right. I get where you're coming from.
I think men or women who can't give in a relationship, they're absolutely narcissist. That's just wrong territory. It's very
Well, I mean,
it has become very simple for me.
you're completely right. I mean, I see that as narcissist personalities are tough because actually they tend to be very, very bright, very, very intelligent people, generally speaking, and masters of manipulation. And it can be men and women. It
But
can be men and women, of
but
course.
they dry you of the
And
good things and soak you in the bad things.
oh, they leave you in utter states of awfulness, or sometimes keep you perpetuated in that state forever. You'll never leave because they'll do what they want. Then you'll be pregnant. That's intentional. So you'll have a child. Then they'll give you this lifestyle so you can never leave and they can just carry on what they're doing. So you'll never get what you want entirety. Of course, they'll give you the little threads and bits. But that's we're going to a different territory altogether here. That's to me, I mean, it's not classified as a mental illness, but it's certainly a type of
It's
personality
a
where self
it's a
yeah, where
it's
self
a
awareness doesn't exist and then
it's an
expectation.
illness nevertheless, whether it's medically treatable or medically say identifiable, but it's definitely an illness.
You can talk about it as like a complete social ill. It
Uh,
indeed, and I've seen this again and again and again. Um,
I'll give you
and
an
then of
example.
course,
I'll give you an
yeah,
example, right? There's a friend of mine got married to a girl who was like a bit younger, a lot younger than him, right? 4 5 years difference, and that distance is a lot when you are say 27 28 and the other person is 21 22, right? You understand what I mean?
yeah,
So one day we were having dinner and this person he told me that you're going to be an uncle, and I was like, bloody hell, 3 months into a marriage, into the marriage, and you're a pretty well educated guy. um what was the hurry? And my next question was that was it intentional or it was an accident? Uh, and the answer I got was, um, and I remember this precisely because of what you just said. He told me that for me it was intentional, for her it was not, and I didn't have the gut to talk to this person again. I just never spoke to him after that. I paid the bill,
and that is
walked
yeah, that
walked
is the
right
perpetual.
out of the restaurant. I've never spoken to that person. That person doesn't, he's been calling me for 7 years now, but I just can't speak to him.
So it is about perpetuating that cycle of taking. You
Yeah.
know, you have to keep them trapped so you can carry on taking and taking and taking. And it becomes a constant abusive thing. On
Yeah.
the other hand, I have seen narcissistic personalities like that become self aware and step out and walk
Mm,
back and make amends. So people can be givers. They can, if they're self aware and have that intention to do that.
mm,
And because I have to be honest with you, in my family, in my friend circle, I have loved narcissists and I still love them. They are takers and I know that. But that is because I'm a giver and I cannot stop. But that does not mean I will engage. So
yeah.
I put up a barrier. I don't engage with them, but I love them nonetheless, and I cannot stop.
Oh yeah.
I, even from afar, will love, will protect, will defend even when defense is necessary or appropriate. That's because of my nature of giving. So you can't stop being a giver. You can't
Yeah.
stop being forgiving. But what is really important that you have your barrier up. They cannot speak to you in the toddler tantrum ways or in ways that belittle you or demean you.
Yeah.
Or Darbo, the typical this process of Darbo just deflecting and reversing the whole thing. Um, so it boils down to so much more. You're right, but I think what I'm trying to get to here is that givers and takers are there. You cannot give up. You cannot give up who you are. You cannot change who you are, but you can become aware and try and be more of a giver and try and be more of a taker. And just simple things like that. And you have to put your barriers. So I know that my barriers, there are people like that in my life, my barriers are right up. I cannot discard them. It's not my nature to discard anybody. I don't block anybody. Never do any of that because, like I keep saying, people need people. In the end, nothing else matters.
Mm,
If
yeah.
something is falling apart, you will have to call somebody.
Oh,
So I don't discard them, but my barriers are definitely up.
oh, my
And I'm
my
able to do that.
this question only becomes relevant when you have to build things. If you want the status quo to stay as it is, I mean, this kind of litmus test doesn't is not necessary. If you just want, and it's you can't apply it with everyone, obviously. But my contemplation has always been that I'm trying to build a business, or I'm trying to build a platform for a conversation or anything. Now the people that you relate to, they should be givers. And which brings us to, I I want to keep this conversation short and focused. And this is the last bit. Elephant in the room. Why are Hindus so bad givers?
I wish I had an answer to that. Um, because if I'm honest, um, I've lived in many parts of the world, and in different parts of the world, I've seen Hindus behave differently. Perhaps out of Bharat, where we've had to survive, we've been more giving. I have to. This is going to be difficult for people to hear, but certainly when I was growing up in the DRC, in Botswana, in Kenya, the society was so close knit, and I never met a stingy person. But perhaps boiled down to boiled down to survival, we had to. In Bharat, I have never met so many stingy people in my life. I'm sorry to say that. It's very difficult for me. And we're not just talking money, even otherwise, we make this big noise about, serving and giving, but actually it's talk because, we're so focused on Lakshmi and money, which is fine in some sense. So I don't know. I wish I had the answer, but my experience has been disappointing. Not to say I don't meet very nice people in the part of I do. I've met you and I've been nice with very giving people. But generally, as a collective, I find it very, very difficult. It's, for example, I teach in the UK. We've been trying to find funds to try and make lesson plans for schools. If it was another community, you would have this money in a second. It's just not there. I was at a conference last week, a Hindu conference, the Harmony conference, and there was a wonderful group who works with abuse within Hindu community, and they're having to beg for money. Again, other communities have it instantly. The mandirs were just part with money readily to have homes for these vulnerable people. We don't have it as much. Having said that, In Nairobi, we have huge social schemes of housing, of hospitals. So in some countries we have them, in some countries we don't. You were in Nairobi, I remember recently. Next time you go, I'll put you in touch. We have an amazing hospital. We have amazing clinics. It's free, by the way, and not just for Hindus, for everybody to come. The housing projects are for Hindus, for young girls who might get pregnant out of marriages, things like that. We have that in Nairobi. That is specifically for Hindus. In Bharat, I don't know why we don't have schemes. We do, but they're sort of, few and far between. I think for me, I don't have the answer, but if I can summarize, we have forgotten the concept of
Mm.
the collective consciousness, the one people, the concept of Brahman, how you are me and I am you, and we are one. So it boils down to that, but I don't have the answer, I'm afraid. I don't know.
I think that um giving even the giving that people do, like in terms of charity and all, there is a lot of, and perhaps I've also done this, and and so I'm not escaping the blame myself, but it's just how it is introduced to us that um you give this dan and then you get a certain result, right? Many a time you do dan to fulfill a particular purpose, some kind of dosha, and all those things are there. um
Yeah, giving to be the sake of giving. But also in Mondays, you're talking about giving to Mondays for puja. We have this thing of having people's names on the board and how much money they're given. We should discard that completely. It should be irrelevant because there are people who have given, I know people who have given 100 rupees to the Ram Mandir, and that has been like a crushing thing for them. People who have given a crore, and that's
yeah.
like, that's corrupt money, stolen money, fraudulent money, no big deal. We shouldn't be putting those on board.
Yeah.
And
Also,
I
also,
mean,
also for someone giving 2,000 or 100 rupees m m- might be more painful than for others to give a crore.
yes, the sexual element is higher there. I suppose, yeah, the biblical, I know we're talking Sanat, and there's a biblical verse that your left hand should not know what your right hand is doing. And I
Hmm.
do like that verse because in the end, does it matter? Who knows? But we need, we have this big need of knowing, and we have all this poverty tourism, people going to slums and look what we're giving, and things like that. I mean, it's fine. It does have an end, and something happens. I try not to look too much into it because I don't know what's going on there. Good things happening. It's painful for me to watch that sometimes. But I think you're right. You made that point. Is how it was introduced to us. But again, that's not how it was introduced to me. But I was again in another country altogether. We were taught the concept of Gupta Gupta loving. You can do things for people without them ever knowing and never finding out. If they never find out, it doesn't really matter. You did what was right. What was right. So
Yeah.
I hope that was useful. We did ramble a little bit. It was a little bit of a breakdown of that little very simple statement.
I think
But
it's
I
all right.
suppose
I
I
think
think I make the volition that I'm going to carry on being a giver no matter what.
Mhm.
And sometimes I might fail. I'll pick myself up again and carry on doing it again and again.
Yeah. I think even if we rambled, at least me and you, we learned a thing or two, and that's very valuable. So even if
I remember, I remember you saying something. I think it was you talking about. I judge how much of a person I am, a man I am, by how I speak to women, and never ever bring a tear to a lady's eye. Or uh, that's not how you said it, but I can't quite remember. Leaving people better than you find them. That's the key. Leave people better than you found them. I think that's what you were. That's something along those lines that you said, and that's right. Give. So you leave people in a place better than where you found
oh
them.
yeah, that
Better
that is
loved,
that is
better
the
appreciated, making me feeling more beautiful, feeling more attractive. Doesn't matter. Leave them
that is the
better than where you found them.
that is the simple philosophy of leaving something more than you got for the next generation.
Yeah, and that includes people.
Oh,
So,
yes, yes. Generation
well,
doesn't mean
I think
offspring. Generation means world in general,
exactly.
right? I think this is a good conclusion.
A place to end. Yes,
Yes.
wonderful. Jai
Uh,
Shri Ram. It was wonderful to speak with you, actually.
Same here,
And I'm going to be
as
in Bharat
always.
soon, so I'm really excited. I'm